This is an introduction to a utility we call TagCut that will generate a grid cutout. Some engraving programs would call it, others a matrix for nameplates or trophy plates, anything to where there's a constant size and we'd like our laser or mechanical engraver to come back and cut those out or profile them out. This is the output of TagCut on a 12 by 24 sheet of plastic. So we've got 8 across and 12 up and down. But let me show you what's different. This looks to be just a group of rounded corner rectangles. But if it were a group of rounded corner rectangles, all of the internal lines, both horizontal and vertical, would engrave twice. TagCut generates a group. In this case, looks like we have 173 objects. I'm going to ungroup that and show you what's different here. Each of these horizontal and vertical lines are a single line. They're not duplicated. Then I'm going to select this part, maybe break it apart, and show you that this little star part actually is the corner between those lines. So what TagCut does is generates a grid cutout that is highly optimized for time, very efficient on material because we're grouping those right up against each other instead of leaving a 1/16 of an inch between them to keep your laser from cutting it twice. So let's show you how this works. Let's create a new document. We'll call it TagCut example, and we'll make that the size of our laser bed, 24 by 18. So there's our 24 by 18, but we want to think about doing this on a quarter sheet of plastic, 12 by 24. So what we're going to do is first generate a single tag and make it the size of our, let's say, name tag. And so we're going to make that rectangle not quite 3 inches. Let's go 2.9 or 2.8 by 0.9, just under 1 by 3. Then we'll position that carefully. If you have a version of CorelDRAW that does not allow you to adjust the object origin, then I suggest you upgrade to one that does. But with this, we're telling the icon here that we want the upper left to be our X and Y home. So we want that to be 1/4 of an inch over, and my table size is 18, and I want to subtract 1/4 of an inch from that. What we have now is this part precisely placed, and what we want to do now is run TagCut. And we're going to tell TagCut that we have some material that not quite 24 inches because we need that 1/4 inch around it. So let's say 23.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Not our table size, but the sheet of material on which we're working. And we would like to have rounded corners, maybe 150 thousandths. Let's make it a little bigger. Let's make it 200 thousandths. And we'll tell it to create. And then we'll exit the program. So this is what we have generated. We're going to discard that original template. And so now we have 12 by 8, roughly 1 by 3 tags that we can, after we have engraved our 12 by 24 sheet, we can send this over and cut those out. Let's print it. We will select a laser engraver, maybe a Helix, which has an 18 by 24 or 24 by 18 table size. We want that vector. We'll come up with a group of settings, maybe 20% speed, 100% power, assuming we're cutting maybe with a 30-watt system, maybe 5,000 frequency. And we'll tell it to print that. Our miniature preview over here looks just like what we want. We're set to laser that. Now let's try to do an entire project to show how this ties together with Print Merge and CorelDRAW's Imposition Layout. So let's do a rather small job to illustrate. I'm going to create a new document thinking my end results is going to be maybe about 9 tags, so that'd be 3 across and 3 up and down. But the actual, each tag is going to be that 2.8 by 0.9. As always, it's my preference in CorelDRAW to start with the smallest unit when you're generating multiple tags from one data file. So we're starting off with a 2.8 by 9 inches, 0.9, which is what we generated that last one for. And we'll first create our document. So now I have a finished plate just the way I want it. We're going to do a print merge. File and print merge and create or load. I've already created the data file, so we'll tell it to import that text from a file. Where did I save that? Right here, trophy plate. We'll take a look at what we have in there. The name, the category, and the place. Yes. Data for 9. And we'll tell it that we want our name right here. And we'll want, let's see what's next. Category. We want category right here. We'll insert that. And place, we want it down here. So we have 3 variables in that data file. And we're going to insert those 3 parts. And at that point, we're going to merge to a new document, which started in X4, I believe. So now we have a total of 9 pages with our data in there. I'm using the page down to look through and see if I see any problems. No, all of the data seems to have merged in there exactly the way we anticipated. So we'll print that. Same laser. We'll double check to be sure that that's the size of our table, and we only want raster engraving here. That should be okay. But over here we're going to select a specific layout, maybe a 1x1 with a 1/4 inch margin, and then we'll edit that to make it 3 by 3. And see how that's looking. Looks pretty good. Okay that. And if we want a good look at it, print preview, because print preview will allow us to zoom up on that. So we see our over 21, first, 3 firsts, in the 3 categories. Over 21, 22 to 48. After I get through with all of this, I don't like that dash in there. That's not very clear on that particular part. So just because I see that that doesn't look good on these 3, so I'll just use that to illustrate. We'll apply that so we don't lose any of it. And then on those that are, I'm going back down to 4. Let's take this dash out of there. Page down. Take the dash out here. Not at all necessary, but it just helps me to illustrate that we can do some modification if we see something that just doesn't quite look right. Then we'll tell it to print. Because I told it to apply that a moment ago, that kept all those values. But let's take one more look at that layout. I failed to call to your attention. What's very important about that is this 1/4 inch around. Remember, when we created our lines, we put a 1/4 inch around those. So we're going to show you that here in that imposition layout, we have a 1/4 inch on the left and a 1/4 inch on the top. So that will shift that in exactly the same amount. Let's come back now to our introduction to TagCut. We want to now create a grid cutout that'll handle those 9 tags that are lasering right now. So we've got let's do it this way. Let's make it the size of our table again, a plate 24 by 18, and we'll make a rectangle that'll represent that same part. That was 2.8 by 0.9, and we'll precisely locate that upper left hand corner. We want that to be a 1/4 inch in the X, and 18 inches minus a 1/4 inch should be 17.75. Now we have a 1/4 inch around that. We'll run TagCut, and we want 3 columns and 3 rows, and we want a 2/10 of an inch rounded corner, and let's tell it to create that. We no longer, and we'll exit out of that. We no longer need our original part. We'll delete that and tell it to print that to the same system. While it's finishing up the actual engraving, we'll be sure that our table is 24 by 18. We'll tell it to print that.